Tom Gray here. Got a cheap toolbox off Amazon. It was less than $100. Made a welding cart out of it for my TIG welder and an Argon bottle and some space for accessories. Pretty straightforward project. A lot of little steps, but kind of fun. I'll show you how I did it. To get started here, I've got her flipped upside down on my weld table and the drawers removed, and I'm going to start by working on the bottom. First little improvement is this member right here, this element. This is 22 gauge. This is super thin, and I bent it just picking it up. So I'm going to reinforce that with a piece of 18 gauge. That's about the right length. I just cleaned it up with a flap disc, and I set my flange brake to put a 3/8 flange on this. To mark it for width, I'm just going to set it inside here and scribe both ends. I'm going to take the snips and make a little tiny mark where the scribe line is on both ends. And the advantage to that is you can see it from both sides. Then I'm going to mark plate thickness plus a little bit past the marks from the snips and align that in the big brake. My idea of the big brake anyway. I buzzed off a little of the powder coat in 4 spots. And I drilled the new reinforcement and painted it this very lovely green. And now I'm gonna plug weld it in there. That's much stronger, better looking too. That lovely green. Next is the tank shelf. Again, we're upside down, so the tank is going to go on this end, and the tank shelf is going to be shaped like this, but mounted slightly below this edge. So I'm going to need a piece that drops the floor of the tank shelf and allows to bolt it to the same fasteners that are used for the casters. So need something that looks like this. Here's the bottom of the tank shelf traced out on 14 gauge. Just going to cut her out with the old B&D. I transferred the width of the bottom of the shelf over to this piece of scrap, and this is going to be the side that goes against the box. I just cleaned them up with a face-off disc and I copied the round edge, round corner that was already cut into this piece, and those are going to be my vent openings or drain openings in the tank shelf, which is going to have a rim around it, so need drain holes anyway, so might as well use them. So I'm going to fold this up. here's the bottom of the shelf, of the tank shelf, tack welded. So I marked the center, and I'm going to take this piece of old sanding belt and wrap it around like so with a little bit of overhang, and marked it at center. And that length is half of what I need for the flange or the rim, whatever you want to call it. And they have two pieces of this, so then I'm going to transfer that over onto this piece of scrap and then cut out two halves of that, wrap them around here and tack them on. The two are now one. So now what I'm going to do is I mark the center and mark the center. I'm going to line that, stand this up, tack, pull it around, tack, pull it around, tack, both ways. And there it is, all in one piece. All right, extreme close-up. We're looking at the bottom. This is the bottom of one of the caster pads. There's the tank shelf. I want to add some reinforcements here so I can pick up all 4 caster bolts and put a gusset up to the tank shelf to help reinforce it, so that way the tank's basically riding on these 2 casters. So for that, I'm going to take I reset the flange brake to put a 1/2 inch flange. It'll fit like this. I can bolt it on, tack it to this, and then find another piece of scrap to use for a gusset. that that's all tacked together, I'm just going to fold these ears of the shelf down flat against the side. I'm just going to do that with a good old body hammer. So I kind of got a little, you probably can't see it, but a little signature bend there. I'm just going to finish it up on the anvil. Here's the tank shelf all complete. Just got to finish weld it now and grind it and all that. There it is, all the tank shelf all sanded up and grinded up. I'm not going to go overboard with finishing all the welds. I just ground them fairly well, and all the edges are nice and smooth. So now I'm going to paint it. The color du jour is flat black. For the tank brackets, this is the base plate. I want that as high, I want the top one as high as I can get it. So I just laid out a couple of holes. So I'll drill those out and then figure out a reinforcement from behind. For the internal reinforcement, I found this, which is a piece of 14 gauge Galvy sheet metal angle, and I just tack welded a couple of 1/4 bolts on it, and then drilled a little hole for a screw to hold it in place. So that will be mounted like that, and I'll just screw it in place. And then the bracket just installs with a couple of nuts and washers. I made a similar little bracket to hold a couple of studs for the bottom tank strap, 8 inches from the bottom. I don't know why, I just picked 8 inches. This is the other end of the box. This is where the handle's gonna go. I'm gonna add a hook like I did on my other weld cart that I made from a similar toolbox. I'll link the video in the description. But to mount that, I'm going to add a reinforcement made out of this piece of 16 gauge scrap that I found in the offcut pile. Now holding it where the handle holes go, mark where I need to drill. And here's our reinforcement plate in the same lovely shade of green. I'm going to install that and the handle. After much finagling, that's on there. So I popped a little hole for my hook. So I'm going to attach that with some self-tappers. Just as a point of interest, this hook came from a piano that I found on the railroad tracks. Somebody had left a piano on the railroad tracks that got hit by a train. And this and its twin were laying in the wreckage. I scavenged them both. And that's what it looks like on the inside. You can see the handle brackets. And again, that beautiful green paint. Too bad it's going to get covered up. Okay, I got her flipped upside down. I'm going to start assembling the shelf. And as you can see, I painted the bottom of the shelf the same lovely green. And it mounts beneath the casters. So or I should say between the casters and the box. So I'm just going to bolt this on, nothing too exciting. And because I've got the 14 gauge under the wheels, under the casters for the shelf brackets, I'm just going to put washers under the pivot casters by the handle, just to space it up about the same amount. Not that that's super critical, but... And as a final step to installing the tank shelf, I'm going to put a sheet metal screw through the side to pick up the vertical member. And now I'm going to install the tank brackets with the straps in place. Tank brackets and tank straps are on. Now I got to do something with the top. So to reinforce it, I've got a offcut of this galvanized 18 gauge. And I just folded one side of it for some project. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it's just a wee bit too wide. So I'm just gonna chop that down a little bit and it should fit righteous. Just marking where it needs to get cut. Righteous. At last, the reason we took this trip, and mount the welder. So this is the bottom of the welder, and it comes with these two mounting screws. So I'm going to take those out. And I drilled these two holes in the top of the new cart. I'm simply going to bolt it down, bolt the welder down to those two holes. Now for the co-star of the show, the Argon bottle. Now I'm going to reinstall the drawer slide panels, which are removable on this nice little toolbox. I just slide in. Like that. And reload the drawers. And there it is, all in one piece. I didn't hook all the cables on and the regulator and all that. I'll do that, that's a separate video. Now I got the cart, my TIG welder, the Argon bottle, a drawer to keep stuff like the stinger, and the accessory power cord, another drawer to keep the tips, and whatever other consumables, and then a couple other drawers just for other general purpose tools that I'm sure I'll load up sooner or later. This thing is nice and it's not super stout, but it's strong enough, and it's not going to tip over. It's stable. I'm going to call this a success, and it's on to the next project. I'll see you there and then.